Hello and welcome back to the another episode of Daily News Quiz Analysis for IAS Prelims 2025. It is 23rd January today, and in this video we are going to solve some important questions which are very much relevant for your preparation. Before we will start solving these questions, I would like to give you the brief introduction about this initiative so that if you are new to our channel, you will get more connected with it. I will try to be very discreet in that. Basically, in this video, we will try to discuss three types of questions. In the first type of questions which we are going to discuss here, are we will take them from the current affairs. What we will do, we will take up the most important articles from the newspapers, we will discuss them, we will break them down into the simplest language possible, and we will try to derive the possible prelims questions from those particular articles so that it will give the idea how the questions can be asked in the exam, which part of the news article is important for your preparation, and what should be your approach with respect to that. So this is what we are going to do in the first part of our discussion. In the second part of our discussion, we will discuss questions with respect to the static portion. We had started with Indian polity. Right now we are discussing the office of the president under Indian constitution. So today we are going to discuss a concept in the office of president. We will discuss a concept with respect to the president, and we will try to derive the possible prelims question from that particular topic, and we will try to understand how the questions can be asked from that particular topic too. So this is what we are going to do in the second part of our discussion. After solving questions with respect to current affairs and the static portion, we will shift our approach to the last part of our discussion, where we will discuss few previous year questions. What we will do in here, we will take up some previous year questions, we will try to discuss them, we will try to break them down, we will try to understand what is the vocabulary which the UPSC uses, and we will try to implement the knowledge which we get from these questions in the upcoming exam. So this is what we are going to do in this video in nutshell. Now, before we will start solving these questions, I would recommend you guys to note down these questions so that you will develop your own question bank before the exam. And when your exams are there, when you are left with only few days, and you would want to revise everything, that time these questions will definitely help you. If you will revise these questions will connect you with the current affairs, with the static part, and also with previous year questions. So it is going to be a game changing for you if you have these questions with you. So with this, I would like to request you guys, please do subscribe the channel, share it with your friends so that they may also get benefited from this initiative, and do write in the comments what do you feel about the video, what else should we bring for you guys so we can help you. With this, let's have a look at the first question which we can see on our screen. The question is basically about the Paris Agreement. I am assuming that everybody of you would be very much aware of this Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement 2015. Why it is in news? Because as Donald Trump, he took oath. He is now the 47th president of US, and with his coming in the office, money changes were very much expected. Yeah, with respect to whether it would be, in our in our yesterday's class also we discussed how he is going to have his policies against immigration. How he is going to change the citizenship acts there, with respect to birth. For example, if anybody gets is born there, naturally he used to be the citizen of India. Now he is going to change that. He has changed that. And also with respect to other key elements of the geopolitics. And also with respect to Paris Agreement, it was very much expected that he is going to get away from it. And in his earlier term also, he tried his best to get away from this agreement. And to be honest, fully he was not able to get away from it, but he tried his best. Now this time it is very much 100% that he is going to get away from the Paris Agreement. So with respect to this, we need to have the basic knowledge about the Paris Agreement, what it is about, what are its core principles, and we need to know what could be the impact of US withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. So before we will see what would be the impact of it, let's try to understand the basic principle behind the Paris Agreement, what it is about through this question. Here the question says, with reference to the Paris Agreement, consider the following statements. First statement, it aims at to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees centigrade, preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels. 100% correct, nothing wrong with this Statement Statement 2, it requires developed countries to provide financial resources to assist developing countries in their climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts. 100% correct, which is basically, this option is basically talking about the common but differentiated principles. Under this principle, that these developed countries, they had spent so much these fossil fuels, or we can say global, those elements which lead to global warming. They had spent everything with respect to that, and they had spent it without any limitation. And now when there are concerns of the global warming, when we are seeing the world is warming now, it should be they should be more responsible for paying to the world. So these developed countries it is their responsibility to pay, to give the financial resources to the underdeveloped countries, so that it can be equated or mitigated in an easy manner. It would be easy for everybody here. So this is what the concept of common but differentiated principle is here. That is, the developed countries would have to provide financial resources to assist developing countries in their climate change mitigation and adaptation efforts. So this statement is also correct. Third statement, it established a mechanism for reviewing and enhancing countries' nationally determined contributions every 10 years. No, it is not every 10 years, it is 5 years. So this statement is incorrect. It established a mechanism for reviewing and enhancing countries' nationally determined contributions. 100% correct, but not every 10 years, but every 5 years. So with respect to this question, the correct statements would be statement 1 and statement 2 only. So why we discussed this question? The reason for that is because the US President Donald Trump, the 47th president, he has decided to withdraw from Paris Agreement. Now let us see what could be the impact of his withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. First of all, as the US, first of all, we have to understand the hypocrisy of the West, the hypocrisy of the US. If we look at these, if we look at these organizations, they are created by them. They are created by them. You know, they craft these rule books, but but they always think that they are exceptional to them. All those rules which they frame, those rules are on the people, on other countries, on the developing countries, but when it comes to implementation on themselves, they believe that we are very much exceptional in this. So they have this hypocrisy in this, that is, they craft their rule books and themselves they move away from these things. So this, if we look at the Paris Agreement, it comes under UNSSC, UN UNSCCC, and we are seeing how the removal of how US coming out of this Paris Agreement would impact the the power, the importance of the UNSCCC. It will definitely impact the importance of UNSCCC. So this is one of the concern which the author here raises. These multilateral organizations, their impact will be reduced. Second thing, the if developed nations pulls back, if a developed nation like US pulls back, the other developed nations, as we see here, that the developed countries to provide financial resources to assist developing countries. Here, if we will see, the US has moved out of this organization, then it will definitely, we can say, it will definitely lead to the other developing nations to move away from this organization also. They will feel that when US is not in it, why should we contribute to the global why should we contribute in curbing the temperature, why should we control in curbing the global warming? So they will also tend to move away from this, so it can lead to that problem also. And also the principles of common but but differentiated responsibility, it will get impacted. It will definitely get impacted. The developed nations will look at the US as they are not paying. Why would they pay? Also, it will lead to the increase in global warming, as we are seeing that US President Donald Trump has categorically mentioned that he is going to focus on on the production of natural gas. He is going to increase the production of natural gas, and this will definitely lead to the methane production, which will lead to the global warming. So definitely, global warming will increase, global emissions are going to increase, and also it will definitely weaken the convention, which is UNSCCC. It will definitely weaken this convention. So these are the major concerns which are associated with, if, or we can say, which are associated with the uh, uh, you know you know ducking, which are associated with the US ducking this Paris Agreement, or we can say US ditching this Paris Agreement. So with this, I hope you had understood the question as well as the concept behind this question, why we had brought this question and what could be its impact. Now with this, let's have a look at the another question. Let's see what we had brought on the next slide. Here the question is with respect to the Khanij Bidesh India Limited, which is abbreviated as Kabil. Why we had brought this question? Because there was a unique article in the newspaper, as it basically talks about the Chinese policies with respect to critical minerals, how they enjoy the monopoly, how China enjoys the monopoly over the critical minerals, and how India is very much dependent on China. So with respect to that, as China enjoys huge monopoly over critical minerals, and they can easily control the export of these critical minerals. If they control the export of the critical minerals, if they can use it against the nation, then it can lead to the it can lead to huge problems in the nations in which they export. Especially we are talking about our country, which is India. So if China will weaponize this against India, then India's market will get impacted. So with respect to that, India has to take a look with on this. India has to diversify its markets, and we had discussed this same article many times. So with respect there, let's see what India has done so far in diversifying its market, in diversifying its markets, how India is trying to react to the Chinese monopoly which they enjoy in the critical minerals. Here, India is actively seeking to diversify its markets. As we can know that India has identified 30 critical minerals essential for national security by the Ministry of Mines. They had identified 30 critical minerals which are essential for national security, and it is done by the Ministry of Mines. Ministry of Mines has identified 30 critical minerals, and also with this they had set up this Kanoj, which is Khanji Bidesh India Limited, which is Kabil. India has we had set up Kabil, and and about Kabil we'll learn through this question what it is about. So it will definitely lead us to the better trade in the critical minerals with respect to other countries. And also we had amended the Mines and Minerals Act of 2000. We had amended, brought up Mines and Minerals Amendment Act of 2023. In which many critical minerals were removed from. Many critical trade of many critical minerals was restricted because they were of the nuclear importance. And in this amendment, they were removed from the nuclear importance, and now the trade in these critical minerals is very much available for the companies. And and also we had introduced the exploration licensing. That has been introduced. Exploration licensing has been introduced. And with respect to these things, what India has done with respect to promoting the trade in the critical minerals, diversifying its market, what India has brought up, we are trying to we are trying to achieve the technology which can extract these critical minerals from our domestic markets also, as well as we are trying to diversify our markets. But the biggest challenge with respect to the critical minerals in India is the lack of private industries, the lack of private investment. That is the one of the biggest challenge associated with it. So why we had brought this question? Because this article in the newspaper, it basically talked about how China has the monopoly over the critical minerals, and how it can it can bring export control over minerals, which can lead to the problem in their market countries, especially in India. And with respect that, India has to diversify its market, and with respect to diversifying the markets, it has to bring some legislative changes also, it has to bring some internal change also. And what India has done with respect to that, we have discussed that in this session or on this slide. So with this, let us have a look at this question and get more idea about this Kabil Kanij Badesh India Limited. Here the question says, with reference to Kanij Videsh India Limited, consider the following statement. First statement: Kabil is a joint venture company created to ensure a consistent supply of critical and strategic minerals to Indian domestic market. 100% correct. It is a joint venture of company. Let's see who are the participating companies in Kabil. The participating companies in Kabil are National Aluminium Company Limited, NALCO, Hindustan Copper Limited, and Minerals Exploration Corporation Limited. 100% correct. These are the participating companies. And the third statement: Kabil focuses primarily on occurring lithium and cobalt mines overseas. 100% correct. Even though it also focuses on the other mines, also other critical minerals also, but primarily prime focus of the Kabil is occurring lithium and cobalt mines overseas. So with respect to this question, all the three statements are correct. So with this, I hope you had understood the question as well as the context to this question. You had understood that too. So with this, let's move to the another question. Let's see what was in today. You know, there was a rare concept in the news article today. It is actually cross pathology, or we can say cross pathy. It was in the news because Maharashtra government has somehow shown interest, allowed it cross pathy. So let's see what it is. What does this term mean? A question can come in the exam: cross pathy in the news. It is associated what? Associated to what? We know with respect to the medicine, we have the modern medicine, or we can say, which is also called allopathic medicine. And we need a separate subject, separate doctors for that. We have a well established system to get the doctorate degree, to get that bachelor's in medicine degree. The students have to go through huge burden. They have to go through huge training to achieve this degree. And we, at the same time, we have the homeopathic medicines to homeopathic doctors too, who don't understand this allopathic medicine that much. So in the cross-pathy, what here happens is that the homeopathic doctors are allowed to prescribe the medicines of the allopathic medicines. What that means, for example, if there is any homeopathic doctor, and he is allowed, under this concept, under this cross-pathy concept, he is allowed to prescribe any medicine which comes under the domain of the allopathic medicine, allopathic medication. So which naturally, according to the Supreme Court judgments, according to many Supreme Court judgments, is not very much allowed, because they don't understand the concept of allopathy, they don't understand the chemical composition, and they cannot diagnose that well, as allopathy is much superior than homeopathy. So homeopathic doctors are not allowed to to prescribe these. But in the governments in our country, they are trying to allow it. And the reason for that is the lack of doctors in our country, that we don't have the lack of professionals in our country. So what can be this way forward for that? The way forward would be to open more medical colleges. We should train more doctors. Students should be allowed to choose the medicine. We should have more doctors in our country, and in this way this issue can be neglected. So with this, I hope you had got the basic idea about the cross pathy. Now let us see through this, let us understand through this question what it is about. Here the cross pathology, also known as cross pathy, refers to the study of diseases affecting multiple species. Incorrect. The integration of different systems of medicine for holistic healthcare. No. The use of homeopathic remedies in veterinary medicine. No. Second statement: the practice of prescribing allopathic medicines by practitioners of other medical system. 100% correct. So with respect to this question, the correct statement would be option B. So This is, I hope you had understood the question and you had also understood why we discussed this question. So with this, let's move to the another question and see what we had brought on the another slide. Here the question is about the National Health Mission. You know, as we can see it here, question is about the National Health Mission. Let's see what does the question say. Which of the following are key objectives of the National Health Mission? So about National Health Mission, the center says that it has been able to curb several public health concerns. According to the center, this National Health Mission was able to curb several several public health concerns. And let's understand what is the primary role of this National Health Mission. What does it aim at? you know it first aimed at reducing total fertility rate. Its first aim was to reduce total fertility rate to 2.1, reduce total fertility rate to 2.1. First aim was of this was to reduce total fertility rate to 2.1. And another, infant mortality rate mortality rate, it should be reduced to 25 out of 1000 newborns. So right now we are at 28, so we had almost done great in this. Also decrease maternal mortality rate, and its aim was to reduce it to 1 out per thousand, 1 per 1000. So and also bring it also dealt with bring malaria down to 1 out of 1000. So these were few key components of the National Health Mission, which I believe you should know with respect to that. Why it is in news? Because the center says it has curbed several public health concerns. So with respect to this, let's have a look at this question and get more idea about it in a proper way. Here the question says, which of the following are key objectives of the National Health Mission? First statement, to reduce maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate, 100% correct. Second, to strengthen public health infrastructure, especially in rural areas, 100% correct. To provide free and subsidized healthcare services to all citizens, here is a catch, irrespective of their socio-economic status, totally incorrect. Even though it may focus on healthcare subsidies, but it does not focus on providing it to all citizens in India. So this statement is totally incorrect. With respect to first statement, to reduce maternity mortality rate, we saw that in the discussion part. Infant mortality rate, we saw that. And also to strengthen public health infrastructure in rural areas, these two statements are 100% correct. So with respect to this question, the correct statement would be statement A and statement B, which is statement A, which is 1 and 2 only. With this, let's move to the last question of today's discussion from the current affairs. Then we will shift our approach to the static part. Here the question is from the news article which was in the newspaper, which talked about the MSP for their central has announced hike in MSP for jute, which is 315 per quintal. So with this, we need to understand the cultivation of the jute in our country. About the jute, who are the states which are highest producers of jute. We should know it is West Bengal, it is Assam, it is coastal AP. These are the areas in which the jute is produced at the highest rate. And also we know that India is the highest producer of the jute in the world. So with respect to that, we need to understand what is the condition which is required for the jute cultivation. For the jute cultivation, we need the alluvial soil, 100% well drained alluvial soil. We need, or we can say, khadar soil for this, which is well drained alluvial soil. We need high rainfall up to 120 centimeters, that is required. We need high humidity up to 70 to 90% humidity should be there. And also the temperature should range from 24 to 35. So these are the conditions which are required for the jute production, and these are the states which are which are the highest producers of the jute. So with this, let's have a look at the question and solve it. Here the question says, which of the following factors are conducive to jute cultivation? Well drained alluvial soil, 100% correct. High temperature and humidity, correct. Abundant rainfall, correct. Availability of cheap labor, 100% correct. So with respect to this question, all the four statements are correct, and option D is the correct option. So with this, we complete today's discussion with respect to current affairs questions. Now let's move to the another part of our discussion where we will solve the static part questions. Here the static part question, it is basically about the succession to president. Succession to presidency. Suppose in case of the death of a president or resignation or removal of a president, who will be the successor to this seat? And the article here, Article 62, basically Article 62 here says that it should be vice president. After this, when the successor to the president, it would be vice president. After that, the constitution stays silent, and it allows the parliament to frame a law who would be the successor to the president. Suppose if both the president and the vice president are not in the office, who will take the office of the president? At that time, the constitution itself is silent. So with respect to that, the constitution says it is the parliament who should frame the law with respect to that, and who will define who will be the successor. So with respect to that, the parliament accordingly enacted the President Discharge of Functions Act 1969. Parliament enacted the president's discharge president's discharge of functions president's discharge of functions Act of 1969, Act of 1969. And it says that in such cases, the Chief Justice of India, or in his absence, the senior most judge of the Supreme Court, discharges the function of the president. So in this case, it says that it is the Chief Justice of India or the senior most judge who will discharge the function of the president. So here there can be a catch. The question in the exam would come like that. In the Indian constitution, it is explicitly mentioned that after, if president and vice president are not in the office, it is CJI who will take the place of president. So the procedure is correct, but it is not explicitly mentioned. It is the law of the parliament which mentions that. So that option at that time, it would be incorrect. So these are the things which you have to understand. What does the constitution say? What are the acts of the parliament? What does they say? So that is the differentiation which you have to make when you are reading your books. When you have to make these distinctions, often students get unfortunately caught in this. They have the proper knowledge, but they don't know where is the basic source. For example, if this question will come, after president it would be vice president, and after vice president it would be CJI. And if the question will come like that, it is explicitly mentioned in the Indian constitution. Many students will say that it is correct because this is the correct procedure. But is it really mentioned in the constitution? That is the issue. That's what we learn here. In the constitution, it is only mentioned till after a president it would be VP, but it is the act of the parliament which describes that after VP it would be CJI or the senior most judge if the CJI is not there. So this is all in nutshell about the succession of the president to presidency. This is what you need to know. So with this, let's have a look at this question and we will solve this. Here the question says, if a vacancy occurs in the office of the president due to death, resignation, or removal, an election to fill the vacancy shall be held within 6 months from the date of the occurrence of the vacancy. 100% correct. It should be held within 6 months from the date of the occurrence of this vacancy. So with this, I hope you had understood the concept of vacancy. You had understood the concept of succession to the presidency. The important points in that, what does constitution say and what does the act of the parliament say. So with this, let's move to the last part of our discussion and solve that question. Here the question is from the previous year question book. As we already are discussing it right now, we are discussing the physical geography. What we have discussed so far, we have discussed questions from ancient history, from medieval history, from modern history. We had discussed questions with respect to Indian struggle for freedom. So we had discussed all these questions, and now we are discussing physical geography, and this question was asked in 2000 5. So it is assertion reason based. In these questions, what you have to do, please first look at the assertion only, read it only, don't look at another statement. Here the first statement says existence of human life on Venus is highly improbable. 100% correct. It is highly difficult. The existence of human life on Venus is highly improbable. So nothing wrong with this statement. 100% correct. And the second statement says it is much knowledge based. It says Venus has extremely high level of carbon dioxide in its atmosphere. You know, if you know this statement, then only you can mark it correctly. And that is true also. It is true. It has high levels of carbon dioxide in its atmosphere. So with respect to this question, both A and B are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Because of the high levels of carbon dioxide in its atmosphere, you know what it does, it leads to the high temperature there, and its place, the Venus becomes very much difficult for human life to survive there. So both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct. So with respect to this question, the correct statement would be option A. With this, we complete today's discussion. I hope you would have liked the video. I hope you would share it with your friends, and I definitely hope you would subscribe the channel. So thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.